Hello people in the future, you are watching E08 Web Devs, which we're gonna talk about subdocuments. So hope you enjoyed. I wanted to say something and forgot. Yeah, yesterday I was talking to one of you guys, I don't remember who was it, and said the live share. I can give you the live share. It's good. It's yeah. I suppose you know it already. You had it already, so I don't explain it then. Alright, this is the notes from yesterday. Let's just get rid of them. We're gonna have a bit of notes today. Where are my notes? Okay. You know what? Let me do this. So it's not a review. Let's say, does anyone know really the exact day of like backend, like how many days? I don't know. I put a question mark here for later. Alright, last time we did some reviews and we talked about mongoose, practices, some express, schemas. We did some CRUD operation, which means we tried to save, create something, read something from the database. We did delete or not, I don't remember it, but the update, we're gonna do it tomorrow, I think, if I'm not mistaken, with Shane here. Tomorrow or next week, I really don't know it, but soon. Today we're gonna talk about subdocuments. Before this, we go to these subdocuments, I would like to create a little tiny middleware. Which is request logger. This is a good thing that we have it always, this middleware. It's just a little simple tiny middleware function that we want to create it. It's console logging every request that is coming. We can see which kind of request is that. The request that is coming, it's a GET request to which path it is. And it's good for debugging, it's good for learning and to see which request is coming. Yeah, and also practicing, again, middleware function. And then after that, we can go to this subdocuments. Before we go to all of this, I would like to talk about, again, to look at the schemas. What was the role of a schema again? If you don't want to open the microphone, it's fine. You can put a chat here. I can read it, whatever. Okile, I don't hear you. One more time. Oh, sorry, your voice is so bad, I cannot hear you. It's like your microphone is kind of, I don't know, stuck somewhere. Shinedu says schema defines structure and rules for the data being stored, transferred. Exactly. Perfectly explained. This means, as Shinedu said, they define the shape of documents in a collection, how they should look like, and structuring our database for better filtering and so on. Because schema lets us also, so for example, have you seen, you go to a website and they have a filtering section, like you choose for, I don't know, for t-shirts, filter only t-shirts, filter only red t-shirts, trousers, or that. This is, if your database has no schema or structure, you cannot do that. Yeah, so that helps us also for the filtering. They generate the model for us. So the model was the action actually. And schema taking an object with properties. So we saw that the schema takes in an object. That's an object. All right. So schema takes in an object with properties, and that's defined easily with each key defines a property that document can have. Like you can say username, that username should be what? It should be string and blah blah blah. And you can say what kind of types or fields you can have, for example, for your schema. Do you remember, for example, what kind of type of data you can have in your schema? Some of them. Can you say right or whatever? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. String, numbers, booleans, and some other stuff. And you can also set the field to be required true, which means, hey, you have to put this here. I'm gonna put as a resource here because there are more types of data. Like there is a lot different types of so-called type of data in the schema, like mongoose. You can check it out here. And for later. So let's have a little example of schema just to remind how these things works. So the schema, it's like kind of user schema defining a class or an instance of a schema which receives an object. That object can have key and values, and the values you can define the type and the thing, like it's kind of validation. So account number could be number, email could be string, it should be required, emails must be unique, and the password could be string, required true, is verified like true or false. Yeah, because when you register somewhere, you've seen that they say you have to verify your email. We sent you an email and you have to verify that. And then you have to go to your email and click on the verify. In that time, when you click on that link, they change your data in the database from false to true. Because at the beginning, when you register, you're not verified. And they say, hey, this person with this username and email still is false. That is verified. We're going to do this actually if there is these things are not in the curriculum, like sending email, verifying email, and so on. But if you be a good student, I'm gonna show you how to do this and implement this, okay? Um, yeah, these reality things. And, oops. Come on. So the number is a short term for type number, all right? Here you can see that I didn't write like a parentheses and then type string. If you have just only one parameter like this, you don't want to say require, you don't want to say, so more parameters, then you can just normally just write it in a short form like this way. But if you have more parameters, then you have to define it as an object then. Yeah. So this is the number is in the short form of like this actually. And I know you know all of these things, but I'm gonna put them as a notes that later when you read them, it's gonna helpful. The required true is a schema type option. We call that option. So like required, unique, they are the option of a schema. And it stops us from inserting documents without those fields. This means when you say required, that should be, it should not be empty. There should be something. Otherwise, throwing error, the mongoose. Like schema types, there are many schema types options. And I think in the exercise, I gave you one more yesterday, one more options, timestamps. Have you used it? The timestamps in your exercise yesterday? Do you remember it? No?
I mean, I remember, but I couldn't finish the exercise.
Yeah, it's all good. You couldn't finish the exercise because it was difficult or just you just didn't?
No, I tried, but I was getting an error or something, and I was trying to watch also the videos and take it step by step. I was very slowly.
That's all good. So being slow doesn't matter. The thing is that you just try to do stuff. And if you get a stuck, please write me in Slack or Shini that we can join. Like yesterday, two of you guys just wrote me. We jump into the breakout room and solving some errors. Yeah, there is an option that I think you haven't seen it. It's a default value. You can use default value. For example, here, it's not a real example, but you can say if no one provided an email, so you want to have a default of blah 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 example.com, something like that, but not for the email field, for something like role, let's say, because when it could be really realistic that there is a role about user in your database, and by default you're gonna say, so the type is string and blah blah blah, and so the default you can save everyone as normal user, and then later if someone becomes admin you can update that in the database. You say this user is admin, for example, but you have a default thingy. We're gonna have that in our example. And what happened? And unique, that you know it already, it must be unique in your collection. So have you heard about sub-documents? Well, what does it mean? Have you heard about sub something? Or let me, maybe you've heard this, or you've seen this nesting in a schema. What does the nesting means? You had it in JavaScript already.
they are called the subclasses of it, or the nested elements or classes of it.
Yes, exactly. Nested, like childs, like nested loop, for example, a for loop inside of another for loop, or a class inside of another class. Yes, definitely. That's also the same. Subdocuments means a nesting schema inside of another schema. Yeah, and one field or path being an object with a specific structure. This means that, imagine this user has address. So how do you want to define the address now here? You can say type string, but the address itself has a lot of more properties. Let's say an address can have a Straße, like a street, street number, house number. So then you will have something like this. The address have street, and then so on. So it will be another object defining. So those cases that you have such things, because for example, this one is just password, and you can say it's a string and so on. But the address has other properties, street, Straße, and so on. And because it's that, then it's a good thing that we use a subschema for that, or a nested schema for that. Yeah, we will see it today. You know what? Let's stop here. Let's live coding. It's better. I don't want to continue with the notes because it's not necessary. After that, when you see, I can complete this part for you. Let's do this. So first thing first, I would like to create a little tiny middleware that console logs every request that is coming to us. And we see, oh, there is a request, a post request to the slash users and so on. Let's do this. In reality, for the full folder structure, I wanted to say something else, I forgot. But anyway, for in reality, in folder structure, when you have middlewares, when you create middlewares, like a function that does something specific something for you, we have a middleware folder actually. We put it there, whatever we have. So it's better to have a middleware folder for any middleware that you create. Or better, middlewares. I'm gonna name it to middlewares. That's better. It could be more functions there. And here, because we want to console log something, and it's just a request console logging, let's name it request logger. So here we can say request logger.js. What is, so that's we want to create a middleware. What is the signature of a middleware? So when I say let's create a middleware, how does it look like? I showed you yesterday what is the signature of a
It
middleware.
has 3 parameters: request, response, and next.
Exactly. Thank you, Sabine. That's a function with 3 parameters. So let's create them. So we say const request logger. That's a function with 3 parameters. Request next. All right. And that's it. You just successfully created a middleware. Now, what it does, we should test it now. Let's export it straight ahead here that we can import it where we need it. Export. Let's import it in our server.js. So here, I want for every request coming from everywhere in the world, so it comes definitely starting from here. It goes here, the first place that it goes, it's here. This middleware checks it if there is a body of the request, if the application JSON says the content type, hey, let's parse it back the data from string to normal JSON, then it does that. And then after that, it goes to the next one and says, oh, if there's a, I don't know, request coming to one of these endpoints, it goes there inside and do stuff. If it doesn't find anything, it returns an error, 404 or whatever. So I want, when the request is coming here, first, and doesn't matter which kind of request, for every kind of request, to every path, this request logger should run first. Yeah? So when I say that, for every request, what does it mean to you? So the sentence, for every request that is coming, I want to run the middleware request logger. What would you say? I want you to translate for every request that is coming. Okile, your microphone unfortunately is bad. Sorry, Mickey.
I was just saying to Akila that we don't hear him.
Yeah, we don't hear you, Okile. I highly emphasize that the meaning of app.use translated like for every request that is coming. So when I say for every request that is coming, so immediately you should say app.use. That's the meaning. This means for every request that is coming, this means in programming app.use. That means for every request that is coming. So for every request that is coming, and no matter which method, and no matter which path. So this means if it was matter which path, we define the path. But if it doesn't matter, like here, our global error handler, we don't define a path, then we say for every request that is coming, I want to run one middleware. That middleware is the request logger that we created. It does nothing now, but it's empty, but yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna use that request logger, this one that we just created. I want to run this and make sure that you are importing that. And let me put it here that we see. It's empty now. Let's just start with a console log. I'm gonna say hi. So let's run our server and let's make a request. Any kind of request, doesn't matter, to get users or whatever. So let's npm start. All right, my DB is connected, my server is connected. Let's make some request. I want to make a request to get all users. And I have two questions after this, and I want you to tell me what happens. Yeah, Mickey.
Sorry to interrupt. Before you continue, I didn't really get why you used and put inside the function there.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The request logger is this one. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And imagine like I want to take this. That's the function. And instead of that, I'm going to put it here. How does it look like? It's look like exactly something like this.
Okay.
Correct? But you can do it straight ahead here, or you can save it in another folder like this way.
Okay.
And then just use the name of it as export.
Okay, got it.
Yeah? Great. Also, we can do the same. We can take this, put it, because also it's a global error handler, it's a middleware also. We can put it inside of our middleware folder and use just only the name of the function. Yeah, let's read it, it will be more clean. All right? And for it's so important, we know that that's a function, all right? This function, you don't want to call the function immediately like this, because if you are using middlewares, you don't call the function, you just pass the function here, because if you call it, it will be called immediately and it doesn't work, it throws you error, because app.use is going to call your function. Yeah, so you just pass the function to that like this. All right, so be careful about this, it's so important. You just pass the function and app.use is going to do the job, call your function and do stuff. It's exactly something like this. Anyway, so I'm going to make a request and I'm going to ask you two questions after that. Bang. We see the console log high, fantastic. The request went. Two questions. Why I didn't receive the users and why it's waiting. Before you answer me, I'm gonna comment out this line and test again. Okay, let's just imagine we don't have this. Send the request. You can see I receive successfully my users. But as soon as I bring this middleware and try to get it, it goes to the middleware, console logs the high, it seems the request is here. But why I don't receive my users after that and why it's waiting? Someone says in the chat.
Because it's just console log, it's not a real request.
Yeah, but you're correct. It's just console log, but anyway, it's a console log. But why it's waiting? And someone answered, Jakub said something in the chat.
There is no response and there is also no next, so it stays like this.
Exactly. On the spot. Because we've learned that a middleware function can control the request. Yesterday we had notes about that. Controlling like stop it, like through an error, hey, don't go anywhere, or if everything is fine, you can say, okay, everything is fine, you can continue, go to the next middleware. This means when the request coming here, you just console log high, okay, no problem with that. But the next is not, because we don't use next, then the request is just hanging around here. What should I do? It's just imagine the request as a person is just running around here. Am I allowed to go out or not? It's like talking to this middleware. And if you say next, yes, this means you can now go. Because if you don't have a next, or if you don't have a response anyway, because you can send the response straight ahead from here, but you don't want to send a response, it's just you want to console log something, and you say, okay, go, continue, wherever you want to go. This lets the request continue. But if you don't use this, then it's just hanging around the request forever inside of this block. And also, yesterday we were using next in another way, in the catch. When you put something here, and then we had status and then an error message. In this case, if you put something inside of the next, that considers as an error. So if you put something inside of the next, that's error. So it considers that as an error, it sends it to the global error handler. But when you don't put anything inside, you just say next. This means everything is fine. You can continue the request, go wherever you want. So that's the meaning. This means when we make a request to this path, first it goes here to console log hi, and then we allow it to say, okay, go to the next middleware or wherever you want to go. The next middleware is where it comes down, it comes to this one. And if there is a rec.body, is parse it back, and then this one says, okay, successfully parsed back, go to the next one. And then it comes here and goes straight ahead to that endpoint. This is the procedure it happens. Let me try it now again. Bang, console log hi, and then next, and then we receive what we want. Does that make sense? Great, Nikki. Great, Shinedu, or everyone else. So instead of console log hi, because we don't want to console log hi, we want to console log which type of request was coming. It's a request logger, a bit of information for us, and to which path is going. It's we can console log instead of hi two things. We can check the request. If I console log the rec, which is our entire request, this one, it's a very big object. Let's test it. When I send the request, you can see it's a very, very, very big object with a lot of information inside, which means we don't need that much of information. We need just a bit information about that. Let me find we need a method out of it, because this request that came, it was a get method, and also the URL is good because it's telling us to which path was this request. Yeah, this gives us a good information about that. So I can console log the method and the URL. That's a good, actually, information for us. So instead of console logging hi, I can say console log, let's use literals. So inside of regex an object, inside of the rec there is a method which is telling us which method, and there is a URL also, rec.url. That's good. We can console log this. It's a request logger, and then we say, okay, go. Let's test it now. So bang. Fantastic. Now it's a good information for you, that it gives you, when you test things, it gives you which request it was, to which path it was. All right. That's it. That's our successful middleware request logger. So let's talk about subdocuments. Let's see how we can implement subdocuments, so to say. So in the model, we have a user model and a user schema. Sometimes your data is much bigger. Like it's not just username and password about the user. It's about more stuff, like as we had as an example, address. Yeah? How can you implement address here? Because address itself, it could be more parameters, like street, postleitzahl, or city, country, and all of this stuff. In this case, we can do, we can create another schema, like somewhere here. Yeah, we have our main schema, it's about user. We can create another schema about the address of the user, so to say. So we can say the same procedure. We can say const, let's name it address schema, new schema, and receiving an object. All right. So what can an address have? Let's add some parameter. Street. Yeah. What could be the type of street? The type will be string anyway. Required true. You know what? I want to do something that we don't, because see, we are repeating a lot. Required true, required true, unique true, trim true. When this happens, I would like to use a short form, because this repeating, it makes your it's just another way of writing. I would like create a global variables like this way. Const required equals true, and const unique equals true. What is the other one? Trim. Const trim, then true. So I create a global, I always do it, and in this case I can just get rid of this extra true. So required will referring to this variable now. So because the object, we know it in JavaScript, the key and value required. So required is equals to required, this thing, which is true. And in JavaScript, if the key and value are the same, we can just use a short form like this. And then the unique, I can say like this. Trim, I can say like this. And also the same thing like here. That's more short and more cleaner. And the same thing about here. All right. Fantastic. Do we make a street unique or not? Great, no, because a lot of people live in the same street. Why it should be unique? So we don't make it unique, but trim, yes, because why the user should put spaces at the beginning, at the end of the address. So we need to make sure that we trim it anyway. Good. Let's have another thing, zip. or postleitzahl or whatever. What is the type? Because I think the type of the zip from the countries are different. Some countries have numbers and letters together, which could be string. Some countries like Germany is just number. So based on where you develop this, you should be careful. But let's imagine it's Germany and it's just number. So the type is number. And required. Also trim or not. Numbers, anyway, they don't have spaces, so you don't need to trim anything. It's a string, actually. Trim is a method for strings, not for the numbers. And what we can have for an address again, I don't know, let's say city. Type. Oh, the city type is a string. And then should be required, definitely. Required. Should be trimmed, yes. And then another one. Country. Country. So I'm a bit obsessed with everything should be inlined, and because country is a bit bigger, I have to bring all of this inlined. So sorry, I really need to be clean. And it's so important for the clean code. When you apply somewhere and when you go to an interview, they say, okay, show us what you did. And you have some projects or whatever. They say, show us your code. And if your code is messy code, you're just definitely gone. You just say rejected. The number one priority to the interviewers is like how you clean code. So make sure you have indented very nicely. It shouldn't be like this and that, it's so bad. For JavaScript, it is fine, it doesn't throw you error, but when you, for example, do the same thing like this indentation in Python or any other languages, it's all of them are error. Yeah. So, but JavaScript is a bit easier. That's why a lot of developers in JavaScript, they have bad coding. They don't care indentation and so on. Yeah. Make sure it's everything fine. The country type, string. Required entry. All right, let's say that's enough, for example, for your address of for user. In your registration form, you have in your website, a user want to register, they need to put username, they need to put password, maybe email also, street, zip, city, and so on. And when you have a data like this, like address, that has more extra stuff, it's better that you separate it in a other schema. Yeah, like this. You just separate it. and you can use this as a sub schema inside of your user schema. So which means here now we can pass this schema. We can say, let's name it main address or something. The main address is the type. So when you write the type here, it's a bit different. It's not anymore type string or number or whatever. The type is schema, the name of our schema, address schema, this one. And should we make this required or not? And if yes, why? If no, why? Or it depends, or whatever. Someone tell me. Mickey says no. All right. So if you don't make it required, this means, okay, the user, when they register your form, like they fulfill your registration form, they can just not put the address there, yeah, and then they just fulfill these two parts and maybe email, and then the request goes, saves into your database. But if it's really important for you that the address also must be fulfilled, then this means you need to require that also. All right? Yeah. That's, yeah, Mickey.
But if country, city, zip, and street are required, that's not defined, that also address is defined?
That's a very good question. I was expecting that. The question is, we have a street, for example, here required. So this means anyway, the user must put required here. Why we need to put required here? So this means if I don't do this, then they are required, actually. It should be there. That's the question, right, Mickey?
Yeah.
Great. That's a very good question. Let's test it. Like, let's make the request and let's see how it behaves, and then I will tell you the more details about it, that you see it in action. Let's keep it not required like this, okay? Let's make the request now. I want to make a request to save a user to the database. They want to register, but we're going to add more stuff in the request. So for saving a user, that's a post request here. I don't want to add an address now. I don't want to add an address. I just want to say this, because in our schema now, it expects one more thing, like the database. If the request goes there and this main address is not there, should it throw error or not? Let's test it. So without any main address, I'm gonna make the request. Bang. Duplicate error. The part username. This means I have Shini in my database already. I cannot register the same user. To make sure, you can see I have Shini. Let's change to someone else. Do I have Mickey here? No. Let's use Mickey. Okay. So Mickey wanna register, and I didn't add the main address. Fantastically, it's saved. No error. If I get all of it, see? Because we didn't say required. Because the main address itself, it's not required. But if the main address is there, then these things must be required. Let's test something else. The same case, I want to add the main address as a string, of course, main address. And now let's do street Carl Arnold something. And I don't provide anything else, like zip, like city, and these things. Let's see now what happens. User validation failed. Main address. So the main address, this is the part. That's that error coming from your database. It tried to save this to the database and said, oh, you gave me main address, okay, no problem, but let me see. The main address, the path country is required. So we set it, the path country is required. You didn't provide me that. The city is required. You didn't provide me that. The zip number is required. You didn't provide me that. You just gave me only the street. See, Mickey, the difference is that if you don't say main address is like not required, it's okay not to pass anything. Not to pass anything. Like at the beginning we saw that. It's okay without anything. Your database says it's okay. You said it's not required. But if you pass something into the main address, then it checks your parameters and says you gave me main address now, but in your main address these things are required. You should provide. You must provide everything. All right, that's the thing. But what if you do this? You say required also here. Then this means you must have an address. It shouldn't be, you cannot leave it empty. Then in this case, even if I don't pass anything in this, then anyway I get error. User validation failed, main address is required now. So you have to provide anyway a main address. So in this case now we say main address. That main address is an object, and then we have inside street will be Carl Arnold, and then the next thing is, what did we have? I'm lazy to go to the model to look. Zip
code.
It was number. All right, so I can use a number. Let's say 22048. City. Yeah, say Hamburg. And country So this is what our database wants. Now it's happy. If there is nothing, any problem, like with other errors, but about the main address could be happy. Yeah, let's definitely, we get, I think, an error. Yeah, that's now another error. It's the duplicate key. The username already exists. I have already Mickey there in my database. So I cannot save again a new Mickey. Which means, let's do this time Okile. Did I write it correct? Ah, alright, yeah. Make the request. And now, database happy, successful saved. And we have a username Okile with this main address. If I get all of the users that I have, the previous users that we saved, we didn't save any address, they are broken users, you can say broken data, because they're now bad data. We don't have address inside. But for the Okile, it's complete. Yeah. There is a bad thing about this also. But before explain, is everything clear? Do you have any question? All right. Look at that here. We have an ID here. So for this object, which is referring to this user, Okile, we have this ID and we have another ID. Who can say what are the differences and what is this ID for and what is this ID for?
One is for username and the other one for address.
Fantastic. Exactly. When we save any document in the database, MongoDB, is going to add an ID to them. But in this case, I don't want this ID for the address because this is a subschema or some sub information about this user anyway. I don't want this ID, it's extra information. I don't want the MongoDB add this ID because this ID is enough. This is, I know it is Okile. And if I can have Okile, I have its address. So I don't need an extra ID. Just, so in a real life, you don't search for an ID of an address. You search about that user with that ID to get its address and information. This means this is extra. I don't want it. That one is enough. With that one, I have access to all information about this user. So this means I can tell MongoDB, hey, please, when you're saving this user, the only ID that you add, just add them for the main one, not for the subschema. You can tell it as an option. So here in the schema, you can add more options if you want. Put a comma here, and when you put a comma, you can see the next parameter is some options you can add. So the first part is like defining your schema. The next part is some options you can add. That option is always like an object. And you can say underline ID. Why underline ID? Because that's the ID that MongoDB adds. like underline ID, and I want to kill this ID for the address schema, not for the main one. We want that for the user, this one. We want it, but we don't want that. So I can say for this one, this ID false. It's like I don't want it. Yeah? Let's test it. So let's say the next person coming, Savin, with this address, with this address, and I guess Berlin, I don't know, Savin, maybe Germany. Save. Fantastic. It's saved to the database, and you can see now this object, which is a country, has no ID anymore. This is the main ID for the user, and you can see it's out of this object. That's great. With this ID of this user, we can have access to everything. So no need for an extra ID for the address. If I get all the users, and Okile has now 2 IDs, which is a bad data in our database, but this one is a perfect data that we got rid of the extra ID. Does that make sense? Any question? Sorry for your name. Sorry for missing that. Savin, that's correct? All right. Yeah, that's about subschema actually. So whenever you have a parameter, yeah, Okile. Sorry?
Did you hear me now?
Come again. You can write if you want, because I don't know what happened with your microphone. It's just I cannot hear you clearly. Okay. You have an error and it says E11, 3 zeros, duplicate key. Who can say what is this error and how to solve it?
Maybe you didn't put a username, Okile?
It could be, or the username is duplicated. It means already exists. Let's share your screen, Okila. And then after that, we can go to a break. Okay. Okila, I want you to tell me what is that error? Your microphone is off and I think you cannot talk because of the microphone. So I'm gonna explain it, but you guess what I'm telling you. You can share your screen. Don't stop it. So there is a strange thing about duplicating key, the username is null. And I want you guys just don't do anything, just don't take it away, Ukila. I want you to read the error. It says duplicate key. Fantastic. But look at the username. Username, like in the error. It says index username key and then username null. What is this username strange about it? Like only the word username.
Maybe you saved it in Sima username with N.
Yes. Exactly. Look at the username that Okila uses. It's username with N capital. Can you go to your schema? Scroll down. Oh, it's not. It's not, but it was a good guess. Everything is fine. We thought that you were using username with N capital and everything is fine. Let's go back to your request. Let's see that. users.http. So here you having username as small. Everything is fine. Try to change Mickey to someone else because maybe you have it in your database. All right. I think it's your database, it's broken, and that could happen. The reason is that maybe before, just listen guys, maybe before, for the first time, when you were creating your schema, you created username with N capital at the beginning, and I guess 100 sure it's that. And then later you change that, and your MongoDB database, it's like, oh, yeah, that's, you can fill in that. Oh, something went wrong. Yeah. And then you, at the beginning was username with capital and then you change that. It's all good. Because when we develop, guys, like now, when we develop, we have broken data in our database. We change the schema and so on. Then your database becomes corrupted, so to say, because you changing stuff, you saving stuff, and it's totally fine. And if you see some strange behavior, you don't need to change it. Just wait. If you see something behavior like this, that your database doesn't work correctly, it's okay. You can go to your MongoDB database. Let's go to the website and just clean everything and then start from scratch. Yeah, just you can drop the collection and start from scratch. And you have to do this. It's normal. Because when you develop, as I said, you change things, you test things, and it's totally okay that your database becomes corrupted. You can click on get started, and I think there should be a login stuff. Logging the way that you did before, like with Google, or what did you did? How did you did? All right, let's go to your cluster, so to say, on the left side. Let's go to browse collection. All right, let's go to your test, because the cat one is for yesterday, I think. Let's drop. You see, you have a username already with capital at the beginning. That was why. So what you need to do, drop completely the collection in the left side. No. It's one by one of that. No. Left side, the user's collection. Left, go left, users. There is a delete button next to it. Yes. You have to type users. Drop it. Cool. Now it's clean again, and try to now save your file. That it's just restart your file and it's going to create it again. Yeah. Now it should be in your database. Give it a try. You have to refresh here. Yeah. Fantastic. Successfully working. Great job. So guys, yeah, that's normal. If that happens, you need to know to do what? To clean the stuff. Let's be back 15 minutes. So it means 34. Let's be back 49. Yeah, see you.